So you were watching this Boston Dynamics video, and this is amazing of a video. It made me have 3 thoughts. And basically, for those who are uninitiated, the Boston Dynamics robots are dancing to Can I Dance Now That I Can Dance? Now that I can dance. That one. Anyway, it's adorable and amazing, and 3 thoughts that popped up. Thought 1 was just the amount of complexity and incredibleness of the human condition to be able to create something like that. 2 is if I should be afraid of the robots taking over. 3 was about what are these robots actually going to be doing? What are they used for? Like, why do we have dancing Atlas robots and dancing dog robots and wheelie robots? So, for the answer to the first thing, what really makes me think about this robotics and how amazing it is to go to something that's completely less crazy, a pencil. You know, a pencil with wood and graphene and rubber and some little metal at the end. In order to make that pencil, you have to get that graphite from Brazil or Mexico. I have a list here. The wood from Sweden and South Africa. The paint from Kazakhstan and Estonia. The rubber from Thailand and Malaysia. The metal, aluminum, from China and Mozambique. Yeah, so it's a ton of countries around the entire world that have their own processes for mining, for cultivating, for treating, for preparing, for selling, for producing, just all of this to even get it sent to a massive factory to put a pencil together. No one in the world has any idea how to actually make a pencil in the way they're made now because of the complexity of each piece along the way. Sure, you can get metal and bend it yourself, but you're not going to be able to necessarily create the metal in the same way that's being made here. And also, they're really cheap and they just show up in stores, and it's just mind-blowing that that's how that works. So, that's a pencil. This is a dancing robot. This is amazing. The concept that the complexity of something so simplistic, and then looking at something like this, especially during a grand pandemic, a great pandemic, a terrible pandemic, whatever it is just so cool to see that people can do this, and just brought a smile on my face. Now the second one that pops up is about the context of like, are the robots gonna uprise and take us over? There was a comment that I hope I can find, which was referencing a person being afraid that people are gonna use these robots to enforce COVID-19 restrictions. There are a lot more effective ways to hold people in place right now that doesn't require an extremely expensive research project to have a dancing robot. For one, cars themselves, right now, the one that I have is just a 2018 car. You can hack that car and turn off the brakes while you're driving. Like, if you wanted to do something crazy to somebody that uses AI, there are some amazing ways that you can do it without restricting someone to a super technologically advanced robot. Also, if you were to go so far as imagining the concept of holding people in their homes using martial law, you can look at what happened with Portland, Oregon, right? With the protests that were happening back in July. You had federal agents showing up and doing that. That's what the person is afraid of in this comment too, but they just imagine robots rather than people. And the point being here is that it's not as simple as, oh, the robots are going to take over the world because they don't have a conscience. It's more like they're just a different type of problem. Right? And then on top of that bit, drones exist, predator drones exist, and there are already systems that are so much more significantly effective than recreating a human footwork, right? Something that's so much better than putting a gun into this robot's hand is that a drone is just more efficient. And so when I see something like this, for a moment I did imagine Skynet, but in reality, it's not something that this robot is going to be scary about. It's more like what this robot has come from that we should be more afraid of. And moving away from that dark place, these robots with Boston Dynamics are actually not being built for this. For one, Atlas, the dancing robot that looks like a human, is a research project to try to create a dynamic person because it's hard, not because it's the smartest thing to do. When you look at their actual website, you can see that most of the things that these robots are for are warehouses. You know, like Amazon, how they have warehouses that move product around? That's the concept. Just make it easier for something to move product around that doesn't require a system that, needs people, right? Like, that's what they're imagining them for, working. And in fact, their little dog robot with the glove hand thing is really almost like a land drone. We already have drones that go underwater, drones that fly in the air, but there are gonna be some drones that are needed to be able to influence like a door. And that's this concept. Someone's stuck into a building and you need to go get them out. You can use a machine that's like this that knows how to walk on unstable ground to help pull somebody out. The major lesson here for me is to kind of not be as scared of a new robot that shows up and immediately imagine the Terminator coming after me. It's to understand that New things can be scary, and I should be considering this. I should be aware of this kind of technology and think about that. But that it's also important to remember that a lot of this scary stuff already exists now with things that we accept in our daily lives anyway. And those things aren't necessarily being used in a negative way. It doesn't mean we should ignore them. I think we should still think about and fix some of these things. But the concept of thinking that something new is scary and something old and we understand is not, is an important thing to avoid. Especially when something new like a cool dancing robot could be cool like a dancing robot. There's going to be a lot of value to something like this, including, as I mentioned, doing stuff in warehouses, doing stuff in space, saving people in dangerous situations. This is pretty cool, and I'm excited to see what Boston Dynamics does with more.